Well, maybe I've did it incorrectly the last 2 times, so let's hope.
Good, good. Did you have a good Thanksgiving?
Yes, how about you?
Good. It was crazy. Good.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay, are you guys ready?
I sure hope so.
Third time's the charm, ladies. Third time.
Right? Yes.
Hey, this time it's gonna work. I've been over and over this.
Awesome.
I think it will, Judy. I really think that this is a different way that we're getting in here. So, okay.
Either one.
And so if we just go down, I just listed it on this new paper I sent out, as Jennifer did the 2, and then Bridget, and then my 2. And then we can just move right along that way. I think it'll be nice.
So I'm going to do my first 2. And
let me start, and I'll say hello. This is our group. We're doing Confront Culture, and guess who's coming to dinner? In our work together for Confront Culture, guess who's coming to dinner? We have met 4 times. Sorry for the technical difficulties where we decided who would do what, but those 2 previous videos are lost in La La Land, and I think it was my problem in the way I set it up. I don't think I recorded them correctly. So this time I think will be great. So we have broken down our cultures into 2 each, and each person will introduce themselves and go on with their culture. So first is Jennifer.
Thank you. My name is Jennifer, and the first culture that I reviewed was the Tlingit people from the Pacific Northwest. That area of the country was rich in natural resources as well as seafood, which was a big part of their culture. The foods that they ate varied seasonably, and it could include seal meat along with seal eel, which all food was dipped. The men were the hunter gatherers, and the women were the ones who prepared the food, as well as dried it for the winter months where things weren't as abundant. Material wealth was very important among these people, and one of their customs was to have a potlatch, and a potlatch is potlatch means to give, and this was the basis of this gift-giving community, where high-ranking persons and his family would amass great amounts of wealth, and then they would have these potlatches for different rites of passages, births, marriages, a new home, death, or a memorial. And they would invite all these people, different clans around, and they would feast on an abundance of food, and they would sing songs and dance in their customary headdresses and masks, and that's how they would share their clan stories and pass them on. What else did I learn about that?
Does this continue to this day in those communities?
It does continue, but not like it did. There was a period of time when potlatches were outlawed because the missionaries opposed it because of the non-Christian values. and government officials looked at it like they were giving away wealth, and they thought more that they should amass wealth. So their beliefs were different. So um, through inculturation, um, it enabled the Signet people to pass down their values and cultures even today. So I think it was like in the 1930s that the law was repealed, and they still exist, but not in the same uh, grandeur way that it was in the past.
Wow, that's
It,
interesting.
it was what I found interesting was that a lot of the young people are going around the world to the different museums and seeing part of their culture that was sold at the time that the potlatches were banned, and they're really rediscovering their culture, which I think we saw in some of the other cultures that we studied. So,
Yeah. It's nice to see that there is some base that's still continuing, though, to keep
yes,
it alive, and hopefully through the generations it will continue.
yes, definitely.
Now,
So,
you mentioned wealth was very important to them. Did wealth have anything to do with the types of foods they had?
I think I don't think that. I think the wealth was things that they would like spend a year. It could be like furs or, different things made of wood or coins or things like that. And as far as the food was concerned, I think it was just the abundance of food. The more food they had to give away, the grander status they would have in the community. And
Right.
they would, start with the hierarchy of the clan to give away the gifts. And then that hierarchy would then go home and share that with their community. So it was always sharing the wealth among each other. And then another clan would then, celebrate something and give the wealth around. So it was always spreading around.
So we need to implement that today.
I know, right?
Sharing the wealth. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be nice?
So,
So do you want to go on with your next one,
yeah,
Jennifer?
thank you. My next thing that I studied was the rice in Japan. Goan means rice and food, and white rice is a big part of the traditional Japanese diet. Um, the rice is also used to make sake, which is a Japanese wine. Um, I think that two of the most unique foods, Japanese foods, are sushi and sashimi, and those two foods seem to be very popular throughout the world today. Um, I learned that rice was not just a food, but a really big part of the Japanese culture. They thought that it was a gift from the gods, and they believed that many of the social behaviors in Japan come from the wet cultivation of rice, where generations of families would live close together, and they would work the land together. They would make decisions together and live in peace and harmony and share their water. And I think that harmony and working together as a group still exists in many parts of Japan today. As far as the rice cultivation, what took many generations of members of the family to do in one day is now done by machine in 1 hour. So there have been a lot of lifestyle and social norms in Japan that have drastically changed since World War II. where a lot of the people left the countryside and went to the cities to work in the cities.
Yep.
And in doing that, the structure of the family changed. That you didn't have the multiple generations living together. Now it's you parents and children together, and the grandparents live separately. And now in the cities, you have a lot of places that serve fast food, hamburgers and fried foods and such. So seems to be very popular among the young children, so or young adults. So there's been a great shift in the culture in Japan. So
Do they do a lot of import-export of the rice?
I do not think they do because it is a controlled commodity. And one thing that I found interesting was it costs 5 times more for the rice in Japan than it costs here in the United States. So I think because of the different trade laws that are in place now, it's not an easy thing to trade.
Wow. So sounds like it must be kind of expensive for them too, even though it's made, it's grown in their own country.
Yes, I think when it's controlled by the government, I think it makes it difficult.
Wow.
I'm sure there's quality issues as well, from the sounds of it. They may have a better quality or a higher standard than we do with our rice.
The rice itself is a different rice than we grow here in this country. White sticky rice as opposed to the long grain rice, and the Japanese rice takes longer to cultivate than the rice we grow here. But that sticky rice is really good for the foods that they put such effort into preparing. They're very artistic, I think, in their food presentation.
Do they also have an increase in the amount of rice that they make now compared to previous years?
I don't. I think it was more of common for the rice farmers and not so much now, maybe. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, they probably still produce it more, manufacturing wise than they do on farms,
Where they can plant a field in an hour versus a day.
Right.
But I think they also have that problem in Japan with the pesticides and things like that they're using to, help grow a healthier plant or whatever.
Yeah. Or to feed more people, they need to grow more at probably a higher rate just for the increase in volume in the country, probably.
Yes. Yes.
Nice. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Bridget, your turn.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Bridget Relaford. I am from Los Angeles. And first up, I had tailgating. This one was quite exciting for me as I've experienced a few tailgates myself. And tailgating actually started off pretty humble. It was a way for Rutgers and Princeton, their family and friends, to kind of meet before the game and share in food and drinks, which at that time it would have basically been pretty much whatever Mom had still in the house from the week that could travel well and be shared among friends and family. And now, of course, tailgating has expanded quite a bit. We no longer have just what you can fit in the car, along with the kids. As really from tailgating, to my understanding, that's kind of how the station wagon became so popular, because of course you could shovel more food in there. You could put your tables, chairs, and even a couple more kids if you wanted to in there, and just open it up when you get there and have your little party literally out of the back of the tailgate of the station wagon. Whereas now, we've expanded and we have trucks or vans. Even some people, they'll take their RVs, and it's a bigger party, and you can have more food, bring your own grill if you want. Some people, of course, with the RVs, will have a kitchen there, or you have those that will kind of pack up the kitchen, that, things that are portable enough to put out there and have your propane tank or generators, even in some cases for some of the other electronics that need to be plugged in. And also now there are some people that specifically go to tailgate and not necessarily go in to watch the game. They'll have their TVs outside with them, and they'll watch the game from outside while they continue to enjoy their food and the big sense of community there while they're supporting the team. As well as, to me, that's a big money saver. Watch it from outside versus going in and paying the price of the ticket on top of whatever you spent already food-wise to tailgate. And as far as food goes, again, originally it was like, maybe a slab of pork or something, some biscuits. Whereas now, depending on what area of the country you're in, the food you have. Like in Philadelphia, you'll have someone out there making cheesesteaks, whereas in Louisiana, you have someone there with a big pot of jambalaya. Across the way from them, they may have like their boiling crawfish or some other type of seafood. Move on over to Texas, and you have all the good barbecue going with the brisket. And then out here in California, you have kind of a plethora of everything. Again, depending on where you are. Like here in Southern California, a lot of times you will have a lot of like carne asada, or you'll have just kind of general foods like hamburgers, hot dogs. You may even have like the Asian foods, what have you. Again, it really depends on where you are and who's around. But it is one thing where everyone is about sharing and saying, hey, I have this over here, what do you have? Or just going around getting to know one another.
Yep, that sounds very nice for a community to have a tail. Yeah, I've never been to a tailgating, but I've seen them on the news and on different programs where people talk about what they cook, and I find it interesting that when people have something in common, how much joy and so much happiness they can have just in a tailgating party.
Yeah, because it really brings everyone together for a common purpose. Like, and even if it's opposing teams, still the theme there is the food and sharing and getting to know one another.
The socialization, and it's all about the food, right? The food makes
It's nice to see that people can still get along and enjoy those activities before a game.
Yes.
No matter what team they're going for.
Yeah, team doesn't matter at this point. It's all about the food and fun.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Someday I'm going to get there.
Yay!
Yes, absolutely. Keep us posted on that one.
Now, what's your next one, Bridget?
Next up, I had koi in Hawaii. This one was very interesting to me, as I have been to Hawaii and I've tried koi there as well as here in California. But koi is a very traditional Hawaiian dish, and it is served at pretty much any and every meal across the board. It's not specific to any type of ceremony or anything. It is commonly found in home and for most meals. And one of the biggest things is that it is something that is native to the island itself, as it comes from the taro plant to Hawaii. And just the way that they feel about the taro plant and how it was brought to the island, and or why it's native to the island, to me is one of those things that really embodies the spirit of Hawaii. because they do have a couple of different stories as to how the taro plant came to be part of the island and why it thrives there. One of the stories that really stuck with me was about the demigods that that brought the taro plant there, and they were earth and wind and the various nature elements. And in Hawaii, of course, they believe that we are all family under the same sun. So when I heard this story, I'm like, okay, that to me really brings about that spirit of Hawaii and aloha. They put so much into the poi and the taro because it is the poi coming from that taro plant. It is a labor of love because the taro root is basically like a potato.
Yeah.
And you have to dig it up, and then you have to scrape off the outside of it, and then you boil it down to where it is soft. And once it's soft, you take basically like a stone mortar, and you begin to pound it out until it becomes more of a paste consistency. And as you're pounding it out, you add, a little bit of water here and there to give it more of a smooth texture. And I will say another interesting point is that different hands make different poi. So I may make it to where it's a little sour, which a little sour is acceptable. Whereas when Judy makes it, she may make it to where it's kind of sweet, but most people don't like sweet poi. And then Jennifer makes it, and it may be that perfect balance to where it's really good poi. And it's not really sour, it's not really sweet, it tastes the way poi is supposed to taste. As well as they also have what they call 1 finger, 2 finger, 3 finger poi, which all has to do with the amount of pounding as well as water that's added. 1 finger poi is the really kind of runny poi where 1 finger will do to eat it. 2 finger, it is more of a pudding consistency to where, you have it and it's pretty firm. Whereas 3 finger poi, it is very firm, and you can really scoop in there with 3 fingers, almost like you would with a spoon to eat it. And we have had some issues over the years now with the industrialization of it, and most Native Hawaiians do not care for the industrialized taste different, as well as the industrial kitchens bring about possible salmonella issues, whereas traditionally when it's made outside. So you do not have all of the bacteria like you do in a confined space of one of these industrial kitchens, as well as the industrialization takes away from the community and the family time, because generally poi is made as a family. You have a couple of people there pounding up poi while others are making the other dishes and whatnot.
Does does that kill the tree that it comes from when they process the root, or is it just a grown root?
It's just a grown root, so they're pulling the root out, and I mean after so long they are able to turn over the soil,
yeah,
and replant in those same areas as well.
Oh wow! And how old does it have to grow before the root is good enough? Do they have a certain time?
I'm not certain the growth time on it.
Yeah, I was just wondering because I knew nothing. I've never heard anything about it until we came to this, so I was trying to find out more about that root.
That's something I would definitely have to look into, but I would believe it would be kind of along the same amount of growth time as like a potato, since it is really part of the potato family.
Yeah. Is it in expense in your area in California and in Hawaii? Is it like something people would buy all the time? Is the cost less, or is it more expensive?
Less in Hawaii because it is native to the island and they do grow it there, whereas here we have all of the lovely import taxes and everything. So it is more eaten pretty regularly, mainly in the Polynesian cultures here.
Yeah.
And I wish I had known prior to this project that taro is actually a complex carb, because I do have a lot of Polynesian friends and get plates from them frequently when there's some type of event or whatnot, and I get looked at crazy when I'm on a good streak and I'm going carbless and whatnot, whatever, and I say no taro and no rice, and they're like, what are you going to eat with your meat or with the rest of your food? I have taro. I can still say no rice, but I can say taro, and that was something else that I found very interesting as well, for it to be a complex carb. Because as we know, most potatoes are starches and they are simple. They're not a complex variety. Eating it from now on.
Wow. So what do you think what do you think is more interesting of the two that you had to do, tailgating and the poi?
I would probably say the poi, just because of its deep, as well as how it has been handed down from generation to generation, and it's something that they are trying to hold near and dear to the culture, as well as some of the younger generation now. They are advocating even more so than the older generation to keep it there within Hawaii and to stop the industrialization of the product.
Nice. That sounds good. If they can keep it getting stronger.
I sure hope so. I know I personally don't want that practice to die out. And the main place you do get to see it right there is when you go to the Polynesian Cultural Center in Hawaii. Because you have the luau there, and they show you in the beginning, like even the pig itself, when they're putting it underground to be cooked. Demonstration of how the poi is made and a couple of the other items that you have there for the dinner.
Wow, that sounds real interesting. Maybe someday I'll get to Hawaii.
Yes, if you do, please go to the Cultural Center, because there's so much of the island as well as the surrounding Polynesian islands there at the Cultural Center. It's well worth your day.
It sounds very interesting. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, I guess I'll go on to the Hindu Indian wedding. And because I wanted to keep this going and hopefully not screw this taping up, I kind of wrote it out more because I was so nervous about not having enough time to do this. So I'm going to try to read it, and then I'll just write the simple things that I found. In my research on Hindu Indian wedding food, it's a really important part of their celebration is their food. Weddings can last up to a week. And the main point about their food is they show their love through their elaborate food with a lot of frying, a lot of sugar, and a lot of sweetness. It's also a time to show off what you have to offer in a display of extravagant foods. They also put a lot into their wealth and their caste in society. So how they prepare for a wedding ceremony and how they show that off is very important to them. They have a pre-wedding ritual, which is a haldi ceremony, where the married women of the bride and groom take turmeric and oil and water, and they create a paste. And that paste is spread on the arms, the clothes, and the face of the bride and groom by the unmarried women of the gathering. And this is supposed to show ritual purification of the couple. And another good spice they talk about is ginger. The golden spice or spice of life is used to give a blessing of fortune and prosperity. And in Hinduism, that is very important with them, is how much money or wealth that they have. Another food that is important in the ceremony is a coconut. It's a divine offering to ensure the marriage is blessed. Coconuts are considered a symbol of prosperity in Hinduism. A coconut is placed in the hands of the bride. Then the bride's father takes his hands underneath hers, and together they hand that whole coconut to the groom to welcome him into the family. That's why in the celebration of Indian Hindu wedding, you'll also see many desserts and many dishes made with coconut in them. Desserts like burfi, kharjin, modak, and purnapoli, chum chum, and jalebi. These are all sweet, deep-fried items that usually have coconut in them. And let me tell you, I've had some, and they can. Halva is a must. Moong dal halva is the most expensive halva that can be made. Again, when you get married in the Indian wedding, there are different castes and different castes of people. And if you have the moong dal, it is to show that you have a lot of wealth and a lot to give because you can afford the most expensive thing that is there. Spices are a very important part of their celebration. A paste of cumin seeds and brown sugar are crushed together and they're put in a betel leaf. And as the priest is reciting Vedic mantras, the bride and the groom in turn place the leaf on each other's head. The mixture represents the bitterness and sweetness of life. Rice. I was laughing when Jennifer was talking about rice because of course, every wedding celebration in our culture in the West, we see rice is thrown for fertility, at the end of a wedding. And rice is very important in the Hindu wedding. It represents sustenance. And the guests are invited to throw turmeric-colored rice on the couple as a blessing because the turmeric is, again, another spice that they really hold sacred. Rice is also, a puffed dry rice is thrown into the sacred fire at the time of the wedding. And that also is done by everybody. Now, in the north, the difference in the Hindu Indian wedding is the difference between the north, the south, and the coast. The north is usually got a more higher caste family, and they do a lot of meat eating. So their menus would be centered around their meat base of butter chicken and a lot of butter chicken and lamb curry is their big one, where the coastal Indian weddings are centered more around fish and crab. And the southern Indian Hindu wedding is more vegetarian. And again, that is based on the caste because the castes were known over the centuries to, the higher the caste, they were more meat eaters. And then their servants were the lower castes, which were enforced vegetarianism. So it's almost like a hierarchy within their food, and it relates to their castes an extreme lot. The higher the caste, they tend to eat meat, and the lower the caste, they tend to be vegetarian. Hindu weddings are a true celebration of one's culture and tradition. And as I had said before, I also work with a lot of people from this country. And when they have their Diwali celebration, that's which is sometimes it falls in October, sometimes it falls in the first week of November this year. And they bring in all of these same desserts that I talked about, and they are very sweet. I'm a very non-sugar person, and it's very hard to say no to them. They get extremely upset if you say no to something they bring in for you. And I have tasted a lot of these sweet desserts and items they make. And I have been to their houses when they've invited us. Me and my boss went once for a celebration last year, and it was someone's wedding. It wasn't the actual wedding, but it was one of the food celebrations before the wedding actually was, like days before. And they had the whole community, the whole Indian community was there, and everyone liked this. What we read about, it says they all bring food, they all bring desserts, and it really is a big focus of a wedding is to show what everyone else has to offer for everyone. It's really quite the community, even in Concord, New Hampshire.
You said that a lot of desserts fried. Is that like fried in the coconut oil? Do you know that? Is it?
Well, there are some coconut dishes that are available in the Indian setting, but when in their ceremony, it's more, it just gets thrown, like the puffed rice gets thrown in the sacramental fire in the ceremony, and the rest is just like the others, put on their head. And if the bride and the groom, at one point in the ceremony, see how much rice they can throw over each other's head, and whoever throws more, it indicates who's going to be dominant in the relationship.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
So they relate it in the readings here. They relate it to the cake eating that we do here when a bride and groom share a piece of cake, and how good they share it or how they push it in each other's face. That's what they related it to in the resources that I read. But also in a Hindu Indian wedding, you can have the traditional cake, but they tend to. I think if they have weddings, this is how the people explained it to me. Here in America, they try to put more of the Western civilization into it, but they don't hold that as a sacred part of the ceremony. That's just something on the side to say for their American friends, I think. It's more like they like to hold on to their traditions as much as they can.
And you mentioned about everyone kind of bringing their own food as well as part of the ceremony. Would their food be part of their caste, like of a lower caste than the bride and groom family? Would they bring what they can afford, or would they need to purchase or bring items?
It's funny because the family I have gone to, they've always welcomed anything from other people and other castes. They welcome it and they will have it. But I hate to say it's kind of like, look what she brought, look what he brought. You still see that in that community, but they're more open and loving about it. I was at that celebration and I asked a few of them, I said, wow, I'd love to learn how to cook some of this food, and I'd love to watch you at your next celebration while you're preparing it. And they looked at me and they said, well, you have to stay for days. Because people come in and out of their homes constantly, and each person, one of the older women explained to me, she said, I make good. This one doesn't know how to make that. And they'll put them right in their place to each other and say, you make this, you make that, because you do it better than me. And when they share, they do it once a month in our workplace. They bring in the puffed rice and they mix it with all sorts of spices and pepper. And my boss can't even smell it. It's too hot for him. And he tried it a few times. Well, now he said he can't have it. They're very upset with him.
Oh.
They're very upset that he won't take it. And I take them aside and I try to explain to them, well, it's just because he can't have it. It bothers him,
Right.
And they have a time of understanding that. So the last time they brought it to work, they brought two, and they made two right in front of us, and his was without the pepper. And mine, of course, I love the chilies, the pepper, anything. So it was funny. It took a while for them to understand that he wasn't saying it to be mean. He was just saying that he couldn't, his system couldn't take it. But they have a hard time when someone doesn't like the food. Like we tried to do a Thanksgiving meal with them, and everybody was asked to bring something from their culture, or this was in the past. And it was funny how they got very upset if Americans wouldn't try their food, wouldn't, try it. Well, why don't you want to try that, And not me, I try everything. So, but there were some other people, it really is like, to them, it's a culture shock. It really is a culture shock when people from America aren't willing to try something that they're willing to give through their hard work and creation. So it's something I've picked up on them over the last few years, and that's why I never refuse anything. I always try something.
That's good you're willing to try, because, we Americans, we can be rather closed-minded sometimes when it's not something familiar to us.
Or picky, we're very picky with our food.
Yeah.
We're so used to, getting everything the way we want it. All right, my next one is the Pennsylvania Dutch community. The first thing to point out about the Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine is it's not about the Dutch. And it's based, so many people are so shocked by that. It's not by the Dutch community. It was based on plain descendants of the 18th and 19th century of the Anabaptist German immigrants and the fancy descendants of the Reformed and Lutheran German immigrants that settled in that area of Pennsylvania. In this area, it actually is 23 counties within this area of Pennsylvania where this quote-unquote Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine centered around. And in the 1930s, 5% of this community area is Amish. So what the tourism industry of the state of Pennsylvania did in the 1930s, they honed in on that, and they tried to get people, they boasted it as a tourism attraction to promote for the state, to get people to come and see the Amish, to get people to come and taste the Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine, which in fact is just based around the basic not having much in life. And when they immigrated to that area of Pennsylvania, all they knew to do was to work the land, to make gardens, to grow animals, to then slaughter for their own people in that community. And a lot of their basic meals are comprised around the potluck dinners, the pot pies, the chicken pot pies, which don't even have crust on them. It was made from noodles because that was a cheaper way to make it. And it was also their own vegetables that were grown. They are also known for a lot of pickling of their own vegetables and fruits that they grow. And what it was all about was, if you don't have much, if your garden didn't do as well, and you didn't grow as good corn, but the next guy grew better corn, he would take his and share it with you, where that guy had potatoes, and they bartered for services, and they shared with each other to really bring their community together. And they did this through their churches a lot. They had a lot of weekly dinners at their churches with these home-cooked meals. And that's what the Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine is really based around. It's home-cooked meals with your own growings, your own thing from your own community. And it's funny how when you read about it, they talk about the chicken corn soup, and how they take the chickens and they use the chickens for eggs, and then they use the chickens for soup, and then they take the carcass of the chicken and they use that to make the base for their pot pies. they were like very frugal people who knew how to use everything that they grew, and everything that they did was through their own frugality and learning from their own environment and learning their land and learning the seasons and the best time to grow and get more. And even though, again, they were very frugal, they were very community-based. They would share with anybody who didn't have something as much as they did. And to me, that's a basis for any community. That's really nice to see that started out that way and continues to grow, even though now they use it more for tourism dollars in the state of Pennsylvania to promote an area.
You had mentioned that there were 20 communities.
Yes, they said 25 counties. 25 counties, sorry. Within that Pennsylvania Dutch community, and 5% of that is the Amish people.
And so did each county have their own specialty, or did they all just pretty much do the same?
It says that it's based on home cooked meals, but they do promote more of the chicken pot pies that are also, they make them with beef, they make them with venison, they make them with pork, and really the pot pie is what centers around their Dutch cuisine.
Okay.
So, it's
the various items that they grow into it.
Yes, they are big on the corn. They have a lot of corn that they talk about, and potatoes. Potatoes is the base of their pot pies and their cuisine that they have. It's potatoes, corn, flour. These are the items that are their base for all of their dishes. And it's funny how now, they say in Pennsylvania it's the whoopie pie, and it's the, what is the other one? The shoe fly pie. And they said the reason, I read another thing from a different site that said the shoe fly pie was a cheap dessert. It was made with just molasses and sugar. And that is why that was promoted by them, because they didn't have money for all the other things. They could make their own molasses from their own bees and their own honey, and they did a lot of those things. So it is really based on home-based cooking more than anything else.
Sounds healthy.
Yes, it does. And even though now in Lancaster County in Pennsylvania, they said you can still go and go into any community church on the weekend and run into a potluck or a chicken pot pie or a pork pot pie that is held together with just tourism and bringing people in to experience it. It really is quite surprising.
That still sounds like a good tourism point.
Yes, I think it's
something they do today. Mm-hmm.
I know, and again, that's what I think after listening to everybody, and when I was listening to everybody talk about their different cultures, you can see that the main part of all these cultures is it's all been started way in the beginning with a small community. And even though like the poi seems harder to keep alive, everybody's trying to get back to the beginnings and to keep those traditions going.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's kind of nice to see. For me, I have to say what I learned from this is to really experience other things in life, even if it's just through reading, and even if it's just through talking through people like you. It's nice to be able to learn something different about somebody and understand that, you know what, we all started out the same way. We all started in a community, and you hate to see in today's time the kids not being exposed to that, and kids not being exposed to learning that way. And you hope that through each of these communities, we can keep them going through communication and through our own anthropology and keeping the old stuff alive and passing it on.
Being open to
Absolutely.
being open to other people, to their ways, as well as trying new foods, like you said earlier about the Hindu people. So
Yes.
it's a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely, I agree. And of course, food is the one thing that we all just stay alive as well. So I mean, that is automatically going to draw everyone together. And we do need to be more open-minded and try to pass that on to the new generation as well. And you would, be a little bit more advanced than we are with it, since they have all this wealth of knowledge right there at their fingertips, literally with the internet now. Whereas before, we would have had to have gone to the library or something to look all of this up.
Yep.
And it just is for us to be able to find out about all these different cultures, whereas now, it is right there. We do need to aid and or push for the younger generation to look into these, or, if we have an opportunity to take them to some of these cultures to experience it firsthand.
Yes, I agree. It's just, I don't know. It just is so interesting. I could look at all these different cultures and just really, I don't know. I have a different outlook now that I've really researched how these different communities can survive over the generations and over the years, and it just, I think that's the good thing about being a part of America, because we are so lucky, because we get to experience a little bit of so many different cultures. And as long as we just keep our open-mindedness and learn from others, I think we'll be okay.
Right. Absolutely.
Well, I think I can wrap this up if nobody has anything else to say. If we can wrap this up, I will edit this and I will have it to you by tomorrow, because I do have mass tonight. And I definitely see a difference in my screen, so I know I did it right this time.
Yay!
Thank you for your patience. I'm slow learning.
No problem.
And I really enjoyed both of you. Thank you very much.
Ditto.
As well. Take care. Have a good rest of your evening.
You too, Bridget.
Be well, ladies.
All right.
Thank you,
Talk to you later.
Jennifer.
Bye.
Good night.